Hey everybody, so in today's video I wanted to do a writing update. I'm feeling pretty under the weather. In the vlog that I'll post eventually, you'll see real time of this, but I've not been having very good health in the last few days. Look at these earrings. Are these not the sickest earrings? I feel like jasmine. They're so beautiful. But yeah, I have a few things to update on, so I'm pretty excited to share them with you guys. I first wanted to start off by talking about Moth work. You guys know this more as Boys on a Boat because that's what I called it during its early conception days. I still call it that, to be honest, even though the boat days are long gone. So if you aren't aware about what Moth work is, in my May writing update, I did talk about it a little bit more in full, so I'll link that down below. It's just a spin-off project of Fostered that I've been working on for the last few months. I started taking it seriously in about May as a project to pursue and continue to make longer. I made the goal to potentially expand it into a novel. I'm going to be talking about why I'm not going to put restrictions anymore on what I want to do, not only because of circumstance, but because of just general healthy goal making. So initially, Moth work was going to be a reach goal for me to write as a novel. I need to be realistic about it, and I don't want to have to take on the stress of that right now. And it wasn't a bad goal. I think it was a pretty good reach goal, but you know, it might change, and like I was saying, it might become a novel, it might become a novella. So right now I'm not really sure. It might lean towards a novella. It might, I'm thinking it might hit the 30 to 40,000 range. I'm not sure. So if you want to see some real-time progress of me working on Moth work, I have a My Write Club account, so you can actually follow that, and I update on the chapters ever so often. Progress on this project has been incredibly slow since the beginning of the month, and I have a few reasons for this. The first reason being I was on vacation for the first week of July. Not a big deal. I was on vacation, so I was just taking a break. I did want to write. I had started a writing vlog with the intention of me believing I would have written a lot more, and then I slowly realized that very quickly realized that I was not actually going to write anything on this trip, and that was perfectly fine. I did a writing sprint or two with Sarah, so I did write a bit, and I did progress farther into a chapter that I just finished, which is good, but I didn't prioritize writing on my vacation. After my vacation, things got really complicated in my life. Lots of stuff was thrown at me. I was incredibly busy for the second week of July, so that was another setback. And then on top of that, and this also goes for the third week that just passed, I ran into a major logical issue in chapter 4 of Moth work. I realized in a scene that the logistics in Lonan's decision making wasn't consistent with his character, and I really tried my best to try to convince myself that I was doing the right thing and like that it was consistent, but I eventually realized that I physically couldn't keep writing because I knew it wasn't right and I had to fix it. So for about a week straight or longer, I sort of sat there and I dwelled in the issue, and I really struggled to find a solution. And in my vlog, which I don't know when I'll get up, but you'll see it, I kind of came to the conclusion that the new plan is the old plan, like Sokka says in Avatar. I kind of just went back to how I was drafting it originally, which surprisingly worked. It took a lot of thinking to work through this problem, but I did eventually get it with the help of Sarah and Ashley. They conversed with me for a very long time, both of them at separate occasions. It was very helpful to go through a character arc, especially with a character that they personally know very well. They've been reading Lonan for as long as I've been writing him, so it was really helpful to have other people's opinions on what he should or should not do, or, you know, opinions on my ideas, and it's just helpful, especially when you feel like you're losing direction. Speaking of losing direction, I severely lost direction with the purpose of this project, and I want to chat about that because I think my initial goal for the project doesn't work for me, and I think the revised goal doesn't work for me, so I'm going to revise it again. The initial goal for this project was just to write it and not give a shit, not to care about the prose, the plot, the character, the consistency, nothing. You just sit down and you write garbage and it doesn't matter. It was working for me for about the first 2 chapters, and then I slowly started getting into my old habits of needing a bit more substantive style of prose. And my issue here is I'm writing in a completely different character's head than I usually do. I usually write in Reeve's head, and she sees the world through a very complex lens that's very much specific to her. The problem is Harrison is kind of just like a normal person. Despite all of the subtle nuances in his worldview, he doesn't have as interesting of a worldview as Reeve, and I don't think I'm at a place as a writer to make his worldview as it is more interesting. That's that hot take. Because of that and the point of view, which is third person, I have had a lot of time feeling like my writing style is in this piece, and that was fine for the first bit because I had just finished Rewired, and by just I mean it had been months, but at least I had written Rewired, and I had a few short stories under my belt. But then after a while I started getting this crazy itch that I was not satisfied at all with anything I was producing, and since it was the only thing I was producing, it was really easy to zone in on all of the issues and just go in with like a magnifying glass instead of looking at the big picture. And I did that for quite a few chapters, quite a few scenes, where I would just get really micro focused on every single issue and try to smooth it all out in one go. So I realized that the screw it, just do whatever you want goal wasn't working for me long term, especially since I call this my main project right now. So I decided to change it a little bit towards polish it up a little bit, but don't fight yourself up, because I was losing sight of the major goal here. And you know what? If the major goal was to like not give a shit and blah blah blah, it wasn't the I don't care mentality that was important. I lost sight of the most important part of my goal in wanting to complete this project, and that was to have fun. And as the project got older and the shininess wore off, things got harder, I lost a lot of the spark to actually work on the project, and I was like, oh god, I don't want to write this. But then there was nothing else to write, so I was like, I guess I have to write this. That was an issue in and of itself, so I'm happy to say that I feel like I'm in a more comfortable place with the goal, where I'm still revising it here and there, I'm still putting a little bit of elbow grease, but I'm not going to try to stress myself out with the very small intricacies. Now, something like the logic problem I was having in chapter 4 was a thing that was holding me back from drafting. So I tried moving on without resolving it, but I realized the problem was that I hadn't resolved it, so I had to go back and resolve it in order to feel comfortable moving on. Despite that, like I said, I'm at around 15.6k, I think. I've been doing a lot of early morning writing because of the health issue. I don't know what it is going on right now, because I haven't been able to really go to sleep, so I've just been getting up at ungodly hours in the morning and somehow writing. So I am still getting stuff done, but because of my circumstances, I haven't gotten as much done as I wanted to, and I'm not going to beat myself up for it. Like, I could, but I'm not going to, because I know that I've been trying, and I know that it's also important to prioritize just friggin' watching Netflix sometimes, honestly. And today I watched 4 episodes of a TV show that I've been wanting to watch. It's called Baby. I think it's an Italian show. I'm watching the English dub on Netflix if you're interested in it. One of the characters gave me major Reeve vibes, and I really wanted to watch it because of that. So don't be afraid of giving yourself a break, even though sometimes the break might stress you out, because I understand the feeling of a break stressing you out more than relaxing you. It's kind of about finding the balance, and finding the balance, to be honest, takes a lot of trial and error, is what I'm learning, at least. I next want to update on poetry. So I haven't made too much progress on poetry. I'm surprised I made any progress since my last writing update. I don't usually, like I was mentioning in my chapbook video, like to express my feelings through words, or like to put my frustrations into words, or like to concretize myself at all, because I think I'm kind of boring. When I got home one day, I just sat down and I wrote a whole poem, and I like it because it's not explicitly personal. It's not as personal as talk therapy on the page, but to me it's the most personal piece of writing I've ever written, because it feels like something more than a viewer will understand, which I think in a sense is cool in poetry. So the poem is called Rubber Band Gods in 40-degree Weather, and it talks about a lot of things. I would say the biggest thing is kind of just general exhaustion and like kind of feeling like tossed around a little bit. I don't know if that comes through in the poem, but that's the feelings I wrote the poem from. I talk a lot about a meteorologist. I talk a lot about rubber bands. I'm very happy with it, though, despite it not being perfect, because obviously we all know I'm not a poet. Non-poet right in the house. Hello. Despite being a non-poet, I think that it turned out pretty good. That's for poetry. Poetry's been cool. It's kind of a chill thing I want to do. I want to work on a new chapbook, possibly, but poems kind of come to me when they come to me. I don't really actively try to write them. Currently, I do want to get into more found poetry, so if you write found poetry, let me know your best tips. So the third thing I wanted to cover in this video is going to be pretty brief, because I don't really have much to say about it. Again, we're talking about Houses with Teeth, which, if you didn't know, is the 7th novel in Fostered, which I haven't worked on since I created it in April. Can you tell I'm salty at myself? So what I say here is, in note, still hella slow, but I've reevaluated the project and stopped caring as much about how perfect it is. This has been a major issue of mine, of where I have really romanticized this project. I really wanted it to be something, and I tell myself not to do this, and I know that I shouldn't do it, but I do it, and I think a lot of us do it, where you just want the best for your book, you want the best for your story, you want the best for yourself as a writer. So I was trying really hard to create the perfect formula, to create the perfect book on the first go, because I didn't want it to be any other way. And that's just not how writing works, guys. Like, you're not always going to create the best things on the first go, especially novel openings are kind of difficult. My novel openings primarily focus on the previous book of Fostered, and I haven't written one for 2 years, since 2017. So this was becoming increasingly difficult for me. I was looking at books that I like History of Wolves, highly recommend. The Girls, also highly recommend. Demigods, I love that book too. Just from writers that I admire. I was trying to analyze how they do it, and I realized that, it's gonna help, but what will help more is seeing how I do it, and I need to actually just do it. So Sarah gave me some excellent advice a few weeks ago, because she was struggling with her novel opening as well. If you don't know who Sarah is, she's my twin sister. So she was struggling with her novel opening as well, and what she said to me was, if you can't start at the very beginning, write a scene that you can clearly visualize and try to work backwards. I am a very linear writer, and I don't really like writing non-linearly, but I do it all the time. See, that's the thing. I don't like it, but I do it all the time because I'm constantly writing notes of new scenes. So it's not like I'm incapable of doing it. I was just feeling stilted by this novel opening, and I'd written 2, because I'd written a past tense version of Houses with Teeth and then the present tense version of Houses with Teeth, which is the original, and so I had 2 to work with, and it was still not working. So I said, screw it. We were driving downtown Toronto, and I saw a variety store. And I was like, that's the aesthetic right now in this scene. That. So I wrote down a note. Reeve is going to be at a variety store on her way to a church to get some holy water. Sarah gave me that idea. I thought it was an excellent idea, because she's trying to ward off a ghost in her apartment. This morning in particularly, I sat down and I really tried, and I did pump out a bit of a scene that has made me feel so much more comfortable with the book. I feel like I could actually sit down and write it. Working on Houses with Teeth was not planned at all today, but I actually was trying to find in my trash pile, which is where I cut stuff. I put all my cut words in a separate document just in case I need them. That trash pile, I think, for Rewired is 30,000 words, and I was looking for a particular part that I wrote after the events of Rewired had ended, because remember, finishing my book video, I had talked about how I had continued, and then I realized I could just pull back and use what I'd already written. So I wanted to see if I could find a description of a restaurant, because I know Reeve went to one in this scene that I ended up cutting out and then just finishing the book. I couldn't find anything useful from the description, because there wasn't a description really of the restaurant. It was more focused on her waiter. However, I did read a lot of Reeve, and I was trying to read Reeve from the end of Rewired, but there was this staleness. But for some reason, reading Reeve in these cutout scenes that don't matter at all to the plot in the book right now meant a lot. I got to see her in character without really worrying about anything, because it wasn't going anywhere. So there's some excellent dialogue from a few snippets from, I think, 2 scenes that I'd cut out that I never ended up finishing, because I figured out a different way to end a novel, right? And it gave me such a clear sense of where Reeve was, because I think she was in the headspace basically at this point in time where she is now. So it was really helpful for me to see that. I feel like people don't talk about it very often, but I think it's pretty easy to forget how to write even the things you've been writing for a really long time. Is that just me? Let me know, because I feel a little crazy. I've been writing Reeve for 5 years and I constantly forget how to write her, and it's terrifying because I don't want to. I love her as a character and I really enjoy her voice. Sometimes it's just hard to tap back in. Let me know if you have that experience too. So after reading that note, I just popped open the document. I said, fuck it. And I just wrote the variety store thing that I had seen in my head when I was driving downtown. I feel confident in being able to add on to the book, to be honest, and I do have a tentative goal to have the chapter done by the end of the summer. I'm gonna sign off. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.